If you optimize one hormone, like let's say testosterone, which most people are interested in, it means that you have to have optimal levels of all the other hormones to be able to tolerate and benefit from it. Otherwise, you're going to get benefits and side effects. It's sad and frustrating to see guys chasing their tail with this. If you have a deficiency in one hormone, there is a decent chance, not 100% guarantee, but there's a decent chance that you could have deficiencies in other hormones.
You talk a lot about, we just said optimizing all the hormones is important, but in a lot of younger guys, they are often showing up deficient in testosterone or symptomatic of low testosterone and, starting on testosterone replacement therapy. Not all of them, many of them are not going to need DHEA and Pregnenolone off the bat. So at what age do you really see that's where those hormones experience age-related decline, and important to incorporate those? Is it more based off of numbers in your experience, symptoms? How do you look at those hormones, and what are the key benefits you're seeing from them?
Yeah. And this is not a cop-out answer, but the late Dr. John Crisler used to say that there's an art and a science to TRT, and I think that that's the answer to, like, is it a symptom or a blood work thing? It's like it's a combination of both and experience. When it comes to the Pregnenolone and DHEA, my theory on this for the younger men, 20 years ago, we weren't getting guys who were doing everything right, nutritionally, lifestyle-wise, who were like 25 and who had the testosterone levels of like an obese geriatric man. Yeah. We're getting a lot of that now. And this is arguably, and I believe, due to the endocrine disruption from the environment combined with the poor diet and lifestyle factors. I don't believe, and I haven't noticed, that the same endocrine disruption impacts Pregnenolone and DHEA. I think it impacts thyroid, though, and I think that that's why it's common for these younger guys to have hypogonadism, and a lot of the time, not all the time, but a hell of a lot of the time, have subclinical hypothyroidism as well, sometimes with, sometimes without Hashimoto's antibodies present. But when it comes to Pregnenolone and DHEA, it's more common to get these hormones decline with age, like we would see in a typical pattern of andropause. And I think that all the hormones decline at about the same point within a ballpark. And that can be anywhere between, 40 and 70 if you're lucky. And I think diet and lifestyle plays a factor. I think how healthy you are for the decades and the lead up to that period is going to impact how early and how acute that drop can be or will be. But when it comes to other risk factors for low Pregnenolone and DHEA, I think there's a few that are often overlooked. Head injuries is a big one, and that's an area that I'm very interested in. The other one is, and I spoke about this on another podcast I did while I was over here, is the use of high doses of anabolic steroids, particularly the 19-NORs, which is nandrolone and trenbolone. I don't know how and why. I'm not too into the steroid space, but those being progestins, as well as being analogs of androgens, seem to disrupt the connection between the pituitary and the hypothalamus and the adrenals and the thyroid more so than the DHT derivatives. I don't know why that is. I think it makes sense though. But that's something that we observe a lot. So if guys have abused anabolic steroids, it could be a risk factor for that. And I think that's a lot of the time why they go on TRT and they go, I don't feel quite right. And it's because the rest of the hormones are dysregulated. But the head injury one is an important one. And the other one that I think is important to touch on as well is that psychological trauma also seems to cause similar neurological, neuroendocrine damage as physical trauma. Dr. Mark Gordon's spoken about this quite a lot, and I think he's highlighted the importance of looking at Pregnenolone and DHEA for brain injuries, and our mutual friend Dr. Keith Nichols has been a very big advocate for many years now on the importance of testing and optimizing all hormones in the body. And my experience working with younger guys has been that more younger guys need thyroid than DHEA and Pregnenolone, but there will be a point in every man's life, again, if he doesn't get hit by a bus, where if he's on TRT, he will need to optimize Pregnenolone and DHEA. And I would also argue melatonin and growth hormone would also be worth looking at as well, because if you've got I always use these car analogies. I don't know anything about cars. I need to learn more about cars so I can make them better. But
she tries to use them.
I try to steal yours, and I have failed so miserably that
she's
I've stopped.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
No.
I don't even think I'm doing them.
I've come up with my own analogies now.
Perfect. So I think, and I think it makes sense. You know, if your entire car needs a service and it's aged and it's old and everything needs an upgrade, if you just upgrade one part to the nth degree, it's going to make the other parts now have even more problems because they can't keep up with the other component. And I think we can often be far too myopic with different systems in the body. I think Western medicine is very guilty of this. And the hormonal system is so interconnected in every possible way that if you optimize one hormone, like let's say testosterone, which most people are interested in, it means that you have to have optimal levels of all the other hormones to be able to tolerate and benefit from it. Otherwise, you're going to get benefits and side effects. And what happens is guys, and we see this in the groups all the time, and it's sad and frustrating to see guys chasing their tail with this, is because if your other hormone's off and you're only looking at testosterone, it's kind of like and Dr. Charles Barnes from that group says if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So they're going, I've got the panacea for all my problems. Is that they'll go, 200 a week makes me feel better, but it gives me the side effect. But then if I drop it to 180, then the benefits go away, but then the side effects go away. So I'm going to try 190, and that wasn't quite right. So I must need 185, or I must need 182. No. It means that there's something off, because you should be able to do well on TRT within a ballpark of where you should be. And when people are so needing to fine-tune their dose, it generally means that something else is off. And if we use the analogy where there's smoke, there's fire, if you have a deficiency in one hormone, there is a decent chance, not 100% guarantee, but there's a decent chance that you could have deficiencies in other hormones. It's very rare outside of like acute testicular injury that you would be deficient in just testosterone, but then have optimal thyroid, optimal adrenal function. And if you get old enough to have age-related hormone decline, you would be an outlier if you had all your hormones optimal except for testosterone. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah. You did a really awesome masterclass. I don't know if that's what you call it, on Pregnenolone, and you talked about so many things on there that we can't get into completely, but I don't think we've ever really talked about Pregnenolone much on this podcast. So just giving some more information for someone who's like, I've never even heard of that term before. What is that? Pregnenolone is a hormone that most people, if they are deficient in it, might have symptoms like brain fog, anxiety, trouble focusing, memory. Those are the key things that I see as deficiency symptoms. Anything else that you would click on for Pregnenolone top level things to mention?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about verbal acuity. I'm probably going to stutter on those words because I always do, ironically. Every time. Yeah, I'm glad you like that masterclass. I'm actually re-recording that. I'm flying Ed down in a few days to re-record that and put it on YouTube, because I think that's something that should be available for everyone. It's very long, but it literally has everything in there you could need to know. When pregnenolone is deficient, it tends to create a very uncomfortable psychological state, because when you become deficient in pregnenolone, not only are you now deficient in your body's entire, I guess, master pool that it creates all the other hormones from, but pregnenolone and its metabolite allopregnenolone are very important for modulating a lot of detoxification pathways, a lot of anti-inflammatory pathways, and also for modulating the GABA receptor. It has a yin and yang relationship with DHEA, allopregnenolone, and pregnenolone sulfate itself, on basically keeping the receptor that people like to smash with things like alcohol and Valium, the stuff that makes you feel relaxed and at peace. It's kind of like being in a Valium withdrawal all the time, or being in like an alcohol withdrawal all the time for people who've experienced that. It's the opposite. It's like anti-Valium. It's just anxiety state. And guys will find that they have a very uncomfortable relationship with the voice inside their head, because it's like that monkey mind's just done a line of cocaine and it hates you. And it can be a very difficult...
Don't use that analogy. Hannah's going to try to whip that analogy.
No, I'm not going to do it.
It's a podcast analogy, not a clinical analogy. But when that inner monologue gets ramped up, and guys will find that it's like their thoughts are overlapping. It's like one thought starts and another thought starts, and it becomes incoherent and aggressive. And a lot of the time it can be very self-deprecating, because they lose that inner sense of peace. And living in that state for a long time, like I've had guys call me crying for fixing it, because they're like, this has actually given me peace for the first time in years. And Many guys with pregnenolone deficiencies become suicidal because it's very uncomfortable to live that way. And ultimately, it ages people very quickly. But the stuff that pops up the most clinically is people will say, I can't fall asleep. I can't stay asleep. I'm always tired, which is a horrible combination. Wired and tired. I call it cranked, which is kind of like if you've had too much coffee in a bad way. That's the one that comes up a lot. And lack of short-term memory and verbal recall. Those tend to be the issues that people come up with. They're forgetting everything. But I think the memory stuff can be caused by a lot of stuff. But that very tumultuous relationship with the voice inside their head and this feeling of just this constant stress and fear and the body just being in a fight and flight, sympathetic dominant state. I think that's the thing when guys watch that masterclass and I go, look, just watch this, 10 minutes of this and tell me if it resonates. They go, that's me to a T. And it can be a very distressing way to live.
What is testosterone optimization therapy? This is optimizing testosterone levels rather than simply just replacing them. The provider will need to intrinsically understand how testosterone works and how the human body works. So when you follow this process of optimizing testosterone gradually, it allows the patient to acclimatize